What's up guys, it is Will from Lindsayperezphotography here, and I'm going to be bringing you guys a tutorial today. I shot my first wedding back in May, my first official wedding, and I'm going to talk to you guys a bit about what I've learned and my experience while shooting. Let's get started. Okay, I'm going to start with a bit of context for the wedding. Whilst this wasn't my actual first ever wedding I've taken photos at, this was the first wedding where I was actually the only photographer there and I was being officially paid. I've done weddings before where I've done them for friends and I've just brought along my camera and taken a few images, but this was my actual first official wedding. So Vicky and Clive first reached out to me about their wedding on Facebook in early February. In March they came around to my house and we had a quick coffee, chatted a bit. I got to know a bit what they wanted, whether they have experience taking photos or having photos taken. And it's nice because you sort of get to know the client a bit and get to see what they're looking for on their day. I then, from after meeting them, started preparing. So the wedding was on the 28th of May. I was only going to be shooting there for about 4 to 5 hours. But I wanted to be the most prepared I was, obviously because it's the first wedding I'm going to be shooting. I had to make sure that I knew the venue, I knew the people, and that everything could just run as smoothly as possible. And this brings me on to my first tip. If you're shooting your first wedding and you're the only photographer there, you have to make sure you're prepared. I made sure to go to the venue beforehand, get to know the clients, know a bit about their background, see who's going to go, and just get an idea of what kind of wedding it's going to be. Maybe it's a religious wedding, or maybe it's just something a bit smaller, but know that on the day, you know where the shots are, you know where you can be, and if anything goes wrong, you sort of have a bit of a backup. Okay, so these are some of the first images I took on the actual day. Whilst I got there a bit early to sort of talk to the bride, I also wanted to get into the venue, have a look around, and also to get these shots of the shoes, shots of the ring, stuff like this. This can be really important to a bride, because detail shots, whilst you don't want too many, this was a much smaller wedding, which meant that everything was sort of done handmade, and shots like these can sort of remind them of all the hard work they put in. These were some of the first people shots I took on the day. I brought the groom and the best man down into the venue, into the ceremony venue where the marriage would actually happen. And I stood them in the middle, and before I actually took any photos, I made sure just to get to know them. And this sort of really helps people loosen up a bit. This brings me on to my next tip. It's really important to get to know the people you're taking photos of. You don't always just have to stand in there, make them hold a pose and take a photo. Often if you just get them into conversation, get them talking a bit, then they really loosen up. And this really helps the people who perhaps don't like having their photo taken so often. I know that when I first met Vicky and Clive to start, they were a bit anxious. They said, we don't really want all the posed photos, we don't want some cheesy smiles. But if you say, all right, I'm just going to do some test shots, I'm just going to see what the light's like, then people relax more in front of camera. If you get them talking, get them laughing, perhaps get them to tell you a few stories about from when they were first friends, then you can get some of these really nice natural shots as I've got here. I did the same for the bridesmaid shots. And this was when people started arriving, everyone started coming into the venue. And I've only picked a few shots here from the whole selection, but obviously I don't have time to go through all of them, but I'm just going to talk to you a bit about how I shot each one and how each one works. So this was when they were coming through. I wanted to get the groom here looking nice and strong, looking nice in his suit, and everyone else behind him. Next shot obviously is a bit more of a detail shot. I wanted to get his shoes in. I quite like this shot from the reflection. I got down nice and low, just had my camera on the floor. I tried to put him here in the rule of thirds a tiny bit, just on the left side. Shot right here is just a nice wide shot, trying to show the venue a bit, show some of the people that are there. And this is when people started to arrive. The bridesmaid was coming through, and I wanted to get a photo of him and then her coming from behind him out of focus. So I've just shot here with the Sigma 20mm I think I was at f2.8 here, and I've got her, the bridesmaid coming over the shoulder. Next shot here is when they were first coming. I really like this shot. I think it is a tiny bit exposed on the left side, but this is a really nice shot of them sort of seeing each other for the first time and everyone around them. Next shot again is just one from behind. I wanted to show the back of the dress and some of the people there. Another thing that I did do on the day is I found that I ended up taking, whilst you can't see them here because I've only picked quite a few of sort of stuff that I could talk about, I did end up shooting too many detail shots in my opinion. I think I shied away from actually taking photos of people, and one thing that I have learned is that for next time I have to focus more on getting photos of the people there and sort of the atmosphere itself. Next shot again is them, whilst I've just said details aren't very good, but this is a detail of just their hands. I think it's quite romantic, something that they'll like themselves. Again, we've got a shot here. This is one of my favourite shots from the day. It's got her laughing. I think for people who don't like taking their photos taken, you've always got to try and be ready to get them naturally laughing, those kind of candid shots, which when they look back, they'll really like. Again, a shot of them kissing, with everyone looking around them. I think this is quite a nice shot. And then this was when they started doing the signing. And whilst you're not usually allowed to take photos here, what they do is they'll actually do two signings. So I'll have one fake one and then a real one. And what I did here is I was just looking from behind. You're not allowed to take any photos of the actual documents themselves, but just getting them talking. I think the light looks really nice in this, coming in from the left window. And then this is a shot from when taking all my photos myself. I was standing from the side, getting them taking their photos. They look really nice looking into each other's eyes, and I think overall this is a really nice shot. One thing I did learn from this day, which I thought worked really well, is what they usually do is they'll have the photographer take a few photos of them writing the documents, signing their names. But once you've done yours and other people start to come in with their phones, don't just shy away and sort of have a look at your photos, make sure everything's alright. I actually stayed in from this side and tried to get some of the more natural reactions whilst they were a bit more relaxed and talking to their friends. This is the group shot from the day. It was quite wet outside and I had a bit of trouble getting the group shots, which I'll talk about in a minute. But this is the group shot I've got. I've tried to get as many people with their eyes open as possible. I think group shots overall are quite difficult to do, especially when you have quite a large group of people. Luckily, I didn't have too many people there. But what I did find is that, obviously because I'm quite young, people don't tend to listen to you. So the best thing to do, I think, for group shots is to get the bride involved, get the groom involved, get the ushers involved, and start getting them to sort of move up in groups, get everyone to follow to the location where you're going to have the group shot. It was quite wet, so when I first started to bring people up, it started to rain a tiny bit, and people started to walk away. So the first time I did it, it actually didn't work too well. But then I just waited until the bride was a bit more relaxed, waited until everyone was sort of ready, and then I just started moving people up slowly, and I got these final group shots. This next shot is actually one of my favourites in the day. I think it shows a real character between sort of the groom and his best men, especially the one in the back right, sort of him pointing. And how I shot this is I got them to sort of talk a bit about the stag do that they'd had the night before. They got in quite late, and a bit of memory from there. I wish I'd shot this shot with all of them in focus as well, but with the rush of the day, you sort of run out of time. So what I've learned from doing all the group shots, doing all the family shots, brings me on to tip number 3. You can't be afraid to sort of boss around big groups of people. Obviously be nice in the way you do it and try and do it at a time that's suitable, but also don't be afraid to get the bride involved. People often tend to follow what sort of the bride and groom are doing, so if you can get them involved and get groups moving, they can help make everything run smoothly. This next shot is when I took the bride and groom out. I had a few locations planned before. The main thing for me is that they said to me before is they didn't like having their photos taken. They were quite nervous in front of camera. So what I did is I had them talk a bit, and the way I actually sort of phrased it to them is I said, look, why don't we come out and take some photos? This is going to be the only time on the day that you can have some time alone. And you can see here they're sort of just chatting. It's a nice shot because it's not too posed, but it also just shows them looking really nice. This next shot here is a really nice one from the day. I've got this nice leading lining from the right and them kissing in the middle, a really nice shot. And this shot here is a good tip for if you've got nervous people in front of camera. What I do usually is I have little cues where if people tend to be a bit nervous, I can sort of get them to loosen up a bit, get them talking, and instead of having them feel like I'm taking their photo, just have them feel as if I'm part of the conversation. And that's what I did here. This next is just a portrait of the groom. I had him quite square on, tried to find a bit of soft light on the day. And then again, we've got a detail shot here. I thought these detail shots were quite nice. I mean, they're nothing too special, but I think people tend to sort of miss out some of the details, and it's nice to remind them afterwards on the wedding, some of the smaller things. So these next 2 images bring me on to my second last point and tip, that is, whilst this is one of the points in the wedding where many people sort of tend to sort of lay back as everyone's eating, everyone's sort of chatting, and you don't really tend to get very nice photos, it is really important that you sort of stay alert and have your camera ready with you and look like you're still working. You might not even take any photos, but just look like you're sort of looking for a photo, and that if anything does happen, the bride and groom know that you're sort of ready and you're there to get the photo. So this brings me on nicely to my final tip, which is remember to keep shooting throughout the day and remember to enjoy it. I think as long as you're looking like you're having fun, like you're relaxed in front of the camera, this really helps your bride and groom to sort of feel the same way. So guys, I hope you've enjoyed this video. I've given you sort of my thoughts and sort of my first experiences when shooting the wedding, my thoughts on some of the images I took. It is really nerve-wracking shooting your wedding, but if you've got any questions, be sure to drop them below in the comments. I'm going to leave a link in the description below so you can have a look at the whole gallery of the images I took, have a look at them yourself, see what you think, and don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. I'll see you guys soon.